Coach Cam. Let's be honest, episode 3, back at it again. I'm really hyped about this episode. Wanted to get this information out, something I'm super passionate about, and it's college recruiting. Just really want to educate players and parents because most people get it wrong, and not to your fault because the community kind of pushes you this way. And before we even get started, I have to say, your kid needs exposure, right, is the biggest lie that was ever told the baseball community. Your son probably does not need exposure. He needs to get better at baseball, right? Be good at baseball. That's how you get to the next level. It's really super simple, right? But telling young kids that don't have college tools that they need exposure is actually ridiculous. And it costs a lot of families a lot of hard-earned dollars because they're just following these trends that are pushed out in the community. And it's absolute nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Your kid needs to get better. Right? Then the exposure comes. It's not one before the other. Like walk before you crawl, bro. If you don't have college tools, you don't need exposure, right? And an easy way to look at this is if you have a varsity stat line. And I know that some kids don't ever play high school baseball and still play college ball. And I get that. And there's one-off stories. But if you don't have varsity stats where you're contributing at the very minimal, just contributing, no college coach cares about you. Being very serious. And again, there's one-offs. There's a baseball factory out here in Houston close to where I live. I mean, they just churn out baseball players. They have guys on JV that are throwing 90 every year. It's actually crazy. I'm not talking about those guys, and I'm not talking about guys who don't play high school baseball and get to go on. I'm talking about the majority of players, right? You got to think about it from a college coach's standpoint. If you can't put up numbers, quality numbers against the best high school players in your area or in the state or whatever, over 40 games, which is a typical high school season, why would they take a chance on you in an 80-game college season? They need to see you put up numbers over times, both pitchers and position players, right? Varsity baseball is it. Sub-varsity baseball, I have a completely different opinion. I think it's useless. But having a quality varsity year will put you on the map. That's the exposure you need. Then you go out and spread your wings and go out and try to be recruited. Once you're a good varsity player, right? So this whole exposure thing to underclassmen, sub-varsity guys is ridiculous. It's a money grab, and it's sad because a lot of parents chunk out tens of thousands of dollars to get exposure that they don't need. So I just had to start the podcast with that. I'm sorry. That's just the truth, right? And if you have somebody telling you different, they are taking your money, period. There's no other way around it, right? So now that that's said, right, the kind of 3 important things when it comes to recruiting in my mind, right? The first one is patience. Just be patient. For you 2025 guys out there, you seniors this year, if you don't think that every single college program in the country is still recruiting 2025s in the spring, you're crazy. Of course they are. Let me give you a little Easter egg, what happens in college programs, right? In the fall, right now, every single college coach right now could say at least 8 or 10 guys that they know are not going to be there next year. And they may not even be there for the spring. They may be getting cut at the midway point, okay? Guys are always recruiting, okay? Get that in your mind. To think that you have to commit or sign as early as possible is crazy. Most of you guys need patience. And it doesn't matter if you're top tier, middle tier, and anywhere in between. Right? I have 2 stories I want to tell you when it comes to patience. And one is my boy P Money, shout out Peyton. He had 3 or 4 big time JUCO offers in the fall, right? Last year of his fall year, his senior year, right? And he's like, Coach, man, I think I'm D1. I'm good enough. And I love that about this kid. I can go on and on about this kid, but just to stick to the story, I'm like, dog, I'm here for it. Let's get it. And he's like, I'm going to have a banger senior year and I'm going to go D1 because I think I'm good enough. And sure enough, he did. He hit, 5 bombs, first team all state, and got a nice scholarship to a D1 program. And he bet on himself. And I couldn't be more proud of him, right? But he bet on himself. I'm good enough. I'm not going to commit JUCO because I'm good enough to play D1. And he was patient and he bet on himself and good things happened. Right. And I got another kid, completely different situation, a kid who committed Power 5 as an underclassman. I don't remember, shout out Nico. I don't remember when you committed, to the other one, but he decided to make a change, wanted to stay close to home, close to his family, and, got another opportunity. Right. And I'm not saying that either one of them maybe shouldn't have done different things. I'm just giving an example of how patience can make a difference, right? Now, if you get an offer from your dream school and they're giving you scholarship dollars, I'm not saying don't take it. I'm just saying that like patience is a vibe, especially for you guys who get anxious about not being recruited early enough. Don't let these people think that, you know, if you don't have an offer going into your senior year, that you're not a dog, because you can still be an absolute dog and great things can happen for you. So just continue to get better and be patient, right? And that kind of moves into the second vibe, is it's like, be honest with yourself about where you want to go, right? Like if you're not an SEC guy, like don't have your sights set on the SEC, right? You may be a D2 guy or a D3 guy. You know what? I have to say this, like when it comes to like being honest with yourself, it's like last year I was watching the College World Series, 3-hole hitter for UNC rolls up there, big lefty, like obviously raked, or he's not in the middle of the lineup at UNC, right? Which is like dream school for some guys. Jordan, baby blue, like let's get it. And this dude's career hitting in the 3-hole, his career started at D3. Right there on the screen. And I'm just like, man, I hope my boys are watching this. Like go where you are going to get a chance to develop and to play early on. That's the best thing you can do. Don't pick the shiniest school, right? Go somewhere where you get to play and develop, right? Like that's the biggest vibe. And be honest about where that is, because that gives you the best opportunity to go there. Those are the coaches that you want to go to their camps and get in front of. Like this is important, right? Be honest with yourself. That's why I love the transfer portal. Low key, like, coaches used to have all the power. They'll cut you at the midway. They'll cut your scholarship down at the end of the year. And you're just like, dang, right? What do I do now? But now, you know, it gives a little, like every school is a JUCO, bro. You can go somewhere else at any time. And I'm not saying that you should try to do that. I'm just saying that your journey is your journey, not somebody else's, dude. You don't know where you're going to end up in 3 or 4 years if you continue to improve and get better and like be a student of the game. You never know what's out there for you, right? But to get to the next level, just like be honest with yourself. Where can I go and play early? Right? Like that's the biggest vibe. Like if you really want to play, like if you want to live the college life, then, you know, maybe don't listen to this. But if you just want to play ball, you just want to continue to get better and play ball because you love it, like pick the spot that's going to allow you to do that. Not the one with the shiniest accolades or it's going to be the coolest Instagram post. Like forget that. Like go where you're going to be happy and play and develop. Right? And be honest with yourself about it because it will help you throughout the process, right? So what, you're not going Power 5 or you're not going D1. Doesn't mean it's the end of your journey. You know what I'm saying? That's just it, right? And then that kind of leads me into the last one. It's like, you know, pretty similar is to go where you're wanted. Like college coaches can finesse too, bro. You don't think that college coaches are finessing 4 or 5 different players at each position, dog? Like, of course they are, right? They got to keep their bases covered and make sure that they get a guy that they like. But the guy that they love, like be that guy. This is we want you to come in and help us win like now. Find that guy, right? And that was the biggest, I think, mistake that I made in my recruiting process back in the day is I had like an almost full ride scholarship as a position player to a D1 program. But it wasn't the D1 program that I wanted, right? It wasn't shiny. It was in a small town. They didn't even have a mall. And I was like, nah, bro, I can't do this. Like I'm from Houston. Like I'm trying to have some fun, right? And ultimately, I ended up back in the same conference 2 years later on less scholarship dollars. Went JUCO first and came back to it's just like, dude. And that, like, again, that was just a huge L, right? Like there, I had coaches who loved me, who wanted to bring me in. Like, give me a chance to play as a freshman on big scholarship dollars. And I went somewhere else because I wanted more, right? I didn't want to improve and get better as much as I wanted to like have a college life, right? And that was my L. Right? When it comes to the baseball side. So like go where you're wanted, go where a coach loves you, right? Like I remember that coach to this day. Like he was invested in me. Like he liked me as a player, loved me, wanted to give me opportunities. And any college player will tell you like the kids that the coach likes, like they get more opportunities, especially at that level. That's really at every level, but especially at that level, right? And bringing in, like you getting scholarship dollars is a big way to say, hey, we want you. You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind. Seeing kids, you know, go as PWOs to Power 5s and then they're at JUCOs in the spring. Like, why? What's the point, dog? Go somewhere where you know you're going to be a guy that they like, that they're going to give opportunities to. That's like, you know, so those are the 3 most important things when it comes to like mentality and the vibe that you want to go into the recruiting process with, right? But now we'll kind of break down like what you need, as like to be recruited. And we talked about this earlier. Like if you don't have a varsity stat line and if you don't have tools, right? Like, there are highly talented programs where you can be on JV and get scholarship offers. I get that, but those are one-offs. I'm talking about most situations, right? So as a position player, you need to understand going D1, probably not a thing for you, right? Unless you are an absolute dog that's going to play as a freshman and are going to get opportunity. They think you can help them win as a freshman. Those guys, those are rare, right? Because when it comes to position players, a college coach would rather take a chance on a JUCO guy or a transfer portal guy that they know is going to make his grades, that they know is going to be a character fit, come to practice and, don't be late to weights and all that kind of stuff. Like they'd rather, take that kid who they know is not going to miss their mommy because they're away from home. Like they'd rather have that kid than a high school kid they don't know much about, unless that high school kid is a absolute dog. Right. So as a position player, like look JUCO, look D2, NAIA, D3, like look at these situations and like, where am I going to get to play? Where am I going to get to develop? Where am I going to get to play? Right. Top tier info. Right. But if you're you're a high school guy and you're not a 90 arm, right? These are the college tools. If you're not a 90 arm, sub 6'7", don't tell me sub 7. Like if you're a 6'8" in college, you're everybody else. Right. So again, 90 arm, sub 6'7", going to hit at least 350, 400 at the high school level or on the summer circuit, right? Be able to hit the ball out of the park, right? Consistently, like talking about 5-6 plus high school home runs on the low end, right? 5-6 in the summer, like that's real pop, right? And then are you a college level defender? Could you get on the field at the college level and not lose the team games? Right? If you have one of those tools, go get all the exposure you want. Go play all the tournaments. If you have 2 of those tools, go get that exposure, right? But if you don't, you should be working to get at minimum 2. Sometimes you need 3 or 4 if you want to be a D1 guy. Like you have to have these tools or they're not looking at you. They might project out, they might put you on a list to follow, but you're not getting any action, bro, until you have college tools, multiple college tools for most guys, right? Now, if you have a pro tool, pro power, you hit 12 bombs, but you don't hit for average, well, you may get opportunity, right? If you're a 95 arm across the diamond, but you're not that great of an defender, you may get an opportunity. There's obviously a lot of gray area in there, but you have to have tools. You have to be good. You have to be able to show that I can compete not just against my peers, but at the next level. And as a position player, that's crucial. There's way too many kids out here playing that have no tools. You should be training, my boy. You're not going to get those tools by playing all these tournaments, dude. But the community will tell you that that's how to do it. Go play a million tournaments and get exposure. What? You don't have anything to showcase. What are you showcasing? Right? Like have the tools to showcase and then you go show them off, bro. You don't try to play to get these, these skill sets, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like baseball's the only sport where it's like, oh, if we play more games, we'll get better. No, you won't. You'll still be average, bruh. Like I don't get it, right? So as position players, like make sure you're tooled up, or don't play as many games, man. Work on it, and as pitchers, right? Going to pitching. Pitchers, I think, are 4 tool guys, right? You got the big ones, velo. Obviously, if you have big velo, you're going to get a shot somewhere, right? Especially out of high school. If you're 90, 92 or up, you're going to get a shot, right? Second one is commanding the zone, being a strike thrower, being a guy who's, 87, 88, pounds the strike zone. You might get the same opportunities as a guy who's 90, 92 who doesn't throw strikes, right? Like there's that, there's gray area here, right? Do you have a plus break and pitch and changeup or both would be ideal, right? And then can you hold runners, right? College coaches want to see high school guys that can control the running game because that's a big deal at the next level. Right? If you're big, 1-8 to home plate and you don't pick off and you don't switch up your, that's not going to be, coaches are looking for that, right? Like, can this guy at least have an idea of managing the running game? Because I can't put him on the mound. Like if he can't do it, when he gets to into my program, right? So it's like, if you're one of those pitchers, you need to be 86 and up minimum, right? There are guys who get chances who are, 83 to 6, 5, maybe they're really good pitchers, but you need to be 86 and up and that's being nice, right? You really need to try to get 90, a game 90 will give you a lot of opportunities, especially if you do it often. right? Be able to pound the strike zone. Like, you can't be walking guys. Like, no coach wants to bring on a guy who can't throw strikes. Like, it's just a reality. Having some off-speed pitches in the strike zone and then holding runners, right? So if you have, one or two of those tools, like, you have an opportunity to get exposure. But again, we have kids out here who are 16 who are throwing 81, and it's like, bro, you don't need to be playing. Like, you need to be training. Like, you need to be like running. You need to be, on a throwing program, long tossing twice a week, 2 pins. Like, that would help you a whole lot more than throwing 50, 60 pitches on a weekend, man. Like, and again, we just have too much of that in the community. When that guy was 80, 82, he could be 87, 88, in 6 months. But instead, like, we cut 3 months or 2 months out of the year to train because we're playing games. And, something's got to give at some point, right? And, there's just too many kids out there that, both position players and pitchers that don't train enough. And you've bought into this, I need exposure. I need to spend, 8 or 10 grand every summer when I don't have any college ability yet. Like, when I show that ability, then you go get that exposure. But until then, dude, like, you shouldn't. You should be training, working harder, getting better so that you, like, give yourself an opportunity to play at the next level. But a lot of kids get left behind because they're trying to do what, the top tier talent does, right? It's like, you shouldn't be on the same formula as a guy who's, born with the tool set, right? Or is just better than you in general. Like, you shouldn't be on the same formula. Like, you should run it a little different so you can catch up, bro. Like, if your car isn't as fast, you're not going to keep racing. Your car's not going to get any faster. You got to take it to the shop. You got to upgrade it. And then we can be competing at the race. And that's, I wish the community and a lot of families out there with high school kids would take that into consideration and stop spending just all this hard-earned money for nothing. Going into a summer, paying this money thinking you're going to get something and you get nothing. That's most kids' experience. That's most families' experience, especially as underclassmen. So just take that into consideration and maybe take a different route. And I promise by the time you're a junior, senior, you're going to be like, man, I'm sure glad I took my sophomore year summer off or my freshman year summer off. I caught up to some guys that were better than me. But we don't do that. We just try to do what they do. It's like, bro, what? It's just kind of crazy, right? So, that's kind of my take on recruiting and, what you need to know and how you need to approach it, especially if you're just now coming into it, freshmen, sophomores, underclassmen. Like, man, I really hope y'all consider, some of the things that we talked about and consider doing it a different way, right? So, but what I'll leave you with before I let you go is, like, if you are an underclassman and you do choose the play less route, like, I'm going to take my freshman summer off and my sophomore summer off or one of the two, like, one thing that you can do to actually get exposure is get your academic transcripts, get some good video of you, training or game video, email it to some schools that you like, right? That you think that you're in that tier and that you could go to one day or that you want to go to one day, and then send those emails out, right? And then go to their camp, right? A lot more cost effective. And when you get to that camp, go to the coaching staff, right? Someone on the coaching staff, shake their hand, look them in the eye and say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I think that I can help your team. I can help this program win games in the future. I've sent over an email with my academic profile and some video of me playing and training. I'm really, really interested. And I guarantee you that coach, if you're a good player, right, if you've got some ability and, some projectability as well, they're going to go look. And they're going to be like, man, this kid came up to me, shook my hand, looked me in the face. The least I can do is go check him out. Right. And they see you got good grades and they like you as a player, the video, and they like seeing you at camp. And that gives you a great opportunity, way more than that same coach seeing you at some tournament. Right. That's a good formula for upperclassmen too, who want to play at the next level. Get your exposure that way, as opposed to just going and playing these events where, unless you're playing a top tier team, then, nobody's going to see you, man. Right. So, that's just kind of my 2 cents. And again, I could break this down. I could break all of these down into their own podcast, and I'm sure that I will on some occasions. But, I love this topic. I love to debate this topic and talk to parents about this topic because, most people, again, a huge majority of people don't do it the right way. right? Not for their kid, right? Again, the top 10% kids that are just born to play baseball, like, I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to like the rest of the 80% of us out here who, have to do more to get to that level, right? So that's my time. I love doing this. Super excited to get this one out. Podcast is coming along really well. Remember, I shoot, edit, produce all my content. So, any help, would appreciate it. Hit that plus. Check me out on the other socials. Coach Cam _ ABD on the gram and on TikTok. And I can't wait for the next one to be coming out soon.